There's something most people don't understand about consistency, and it's costing them everything. Right now, as you're watching this, your brain is making a calculation. It's weighing the effort of actually implementing what you learn here against the comfort of just consuming this information and moving on. That calculation, that split-second decision your brain makes thousands of times per day, is determining the entire trajectory of your life. And here's what nobody's telling you. The reason you can't stay consistent isn't about willpower. It's not about motivation. It's about something far more fundamental happening in your neurobiology that you've probably never even considered. Let me paint a picture of what's actually happening inside your skull when you set a goal to be consistent for 100 days. Your brain has this region called the prefrontal cortex. It's the part that sets long-term goals, makes plans, and thinks about your future self. But here's the problem. Your prefrontal cortex is relatively weak. It's like a CEO that makes grand declarations but has limited power to enforce them. Meanwhile, you have these older, more primitive brain structures, the limbic system, that operate on immediate gratification and survival instincts. They don't care about your goals. They care about conserving energy and seeking pleasure right now. When you wake up on day 1 of your consistency journey, your prefrontal cortex is excited. But by day 3, when the alarm goes off and your bed is warm, your limbic system starts throwing its weight around. It floods your consciousness with feelings of tiredness, with justifications for why today doesn't matter, with rationalizations about how you can start fresh tomorrow. And here's the critical part. Which part of your brain wins this battle isn't random. It's based on neural pathway strength. The part of your brain you've been exercising more is the part that wins. And if you've spent years choosing comfort over discipline, guess which neural pathways are superhighways and which ones are barely walked dirt paths? This is where the neuroscience of consistency gets fascinating. Every single time you follow through on your commitment, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, you're physically changing your brain structure. There's a process called myelination, where your brain wraps these fatty sheaths around the neural pathways you use frequently. It's like upgrading a dirt road to a paved highway. The more you use a pathway, the faster and more automatic the signal transmission becomes. This is why consistency becomes easier over time. You're literally building the infrastructure for discipline to become your default setting. But here's what most people get wrong. They think consistency is about doing something perfectly every day. That's not consistency. That's fantasy. Real consistency is about what you do after the breakdown. Because the breakdown is coming. Somewhere in your 100 days, probably multiple times, you're going to have a day where everything falls apart. The person who succeeds isn't the person who never has these days. It's the person who has a system for getting back on track within 24 hours. Let's talk about what actually happens in those first 100 days from a neurobiological perspective. Days 1 through 7, you're running on what scientists call initial commitment enthusiasm. Your brain is releasing dopamine based on the anticipation of who you're going to become. This feels good. This feels exciting. But here's the brutal truth. This phase is lying to you. It's making you think consistency is going to feel like this. It's not. This is a temporary neurochemical state that will absolutely, guaranteed, disappear. Week 2 is where your brain starts realizing this isn't a temporary game. The dopamine from novelty dries up. Now you're in what researchers call the behavioral extinction phase. Your brain is actively testing whether this new behavior is actually going to stick, or if it can just wait you out like it's done with every other goal you've set. Your brain is incredibly efficient, and it doesn't want to waste resources building new neural pathways for something you're going to abandon in a few days. So it makes you feel terrible. It amplifies every doubt, every discomfort, every reason to quit. This isn't a character flaw. This is your brain's quality control system. If you push through week 2 into weeks 3 and 4, something shifts. You enter what neuroscientists call the neuroplasticity window. This is when your brain reluctantly accepts that you're serious and starts making actual structural changes. But here's the catch. You're still in the awkward middle, where the old pathways are strong and the new ones are weak. This is why weeks 3 and 4 often feel harder than week 2. You're in between identities. You're not the old you anymore, but you're not quite the new you yet. The real magic starts happening around day 30 to 45. This is when your new neural pathways have been reinforced enough times that they start competing with your old patterns. For the first time, the discipline choice doesn't require a massive internal war about it. You start noticing something strange. You'll have a day where you just do the thing without having a whole dramatic internal debate about it first. That's your new neural pathways firing automatically. That's the beginning of true behavioral change. But let me tell you what happens to most people right around day 45 to 60. They start feeling good. They start seeing results. They start getting confident. And that confidence becomes dangerous because it makes them think they've won. So they start negotiating. They start thinking one missed day won't matter. And this is where everything collapses, because those neural pathways they've been building, they're still fragile. When they stop reinforcing them, the brain immediately starts pruning them. Use it or lose it isn't a metaphor. It's literal neurobiology. The people who make it past day 60 into the final stretch understand something crucial. They understand that consistency isn't about the thing they're doing. It's about the person they're becoming. They're proving to themselves, at a cellular level, that when they say something matters, they have the capacity to back it up with action. That proof changes everything. Because once you've demonstrated to yourself that you can maintain consistency through boredom, through difficulty, through life chaos, you've unlocked something most people never access. You've unlocked trust in yourself. And that self-trust is worth more than any external goal you might achieve. Because when you don't trust yourself, you can't make big plans because you know you won't follow through. You can't set ambitious goals because you've trained yourself to quit when things get hard. Every broken promise you've made to yourself is like a withdrawal from your self-trust bank account. And when that account is empty, you're bankrupt in the most important way possible.
This is why the 100-day consistency challenge isn't really about building a habit. What you're actually building is identity. You're building evidence. You're building a catalog of proof that you are the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do. And that evidence accumulates in your subconscious, changing your self-concept in ways that ripple out into every area of your life. Now let's talk about what's really happening in your body during these 100 days, because consistency isn't just about your brain. If you're being consistent with exercise, your mitochondria multiply. These are the power plants of your cells. More mitochondria means more energy production at a cellular level. If you're being consistent with sleep schedules, your circadian rhythm stabilizes, your cortisol patterns normalize, your body learns when to be alert and when to rest. What this means is that consistency creates a positive feedback loop at the biological level. The more consistent you are, the easier consistency becomes because your body is literally adapting to support the behavior. Most people approach consistency backwards. They focus on the action they need to take instead of the environment they need to create. But your environment is constantly pushing you towards certain behaviors and away from others. If your phone is on your nightstand, you're going to check it first thing in the morning. That's not a willpower problem. That's a design problem. Your environment should make the consistent behavior the path of least resistance. This is called choice architecture, and it's one of the most powerful tools you have. Every decision you have to make throughout your day depletes what researchers call your executive function. By the time you get to the end of your day, you've made thousands of micro decisions, and your decision-making capacity is running on empty. This is why people who are perfectly disciplined in the morning make terrible choices at night. The solution isn't more willpower. The solution is reducing the number of decisions you need to make through environmental design and routines. When you build a routine, you're essentially programming your day in advance. You're making decisions once instead of making them every single day. This frees up your executive function for the decisions that actually matter. But here's where most people fail with routines. They build routines that are based on who they wish they were, instead of who they actually are. They set a 5 a.m. alarm when they've been waking up at 9 for years. This doesn't work. You have to build a routine for the person you are right now with a slight stretch toward who you want to become. This is called the principle of marginal gains. You don't revolutionize your entire life on day one. You improve by 1%. If you improve by just 1% every single day for 100 days, you don't end up 100% better. Because of compounding, you end up 2.7 times better. You almost triple your capacity through tiny incremental improvements. But most people reject this approach because it doesn't feel dramatic enough. Now let's talk about the psychological warfare your brain will wage against you during these 100 days. Your brain has a built-in mechanism called cognitive dissonance. When you start being consistent in a new area, you're creating cognitive dissonance because you have years of evidence telling you that you're not the kind of person who follows through. Your brain has two options. Option 1, change your behavior to match your beliefs. This is quitting. Option 2, change your beliefs to match your behavior. This is identity transformation. The problem is option 1 is easier in the short term, but option 2, while harder initially, leads to permanent change. There's another psychological mechanism called the what the hell effect. You miss one workout and you think the day is already ruined, might as well skip the rest of the week. This is your brain trying to pull you back to the familiar pattern. The antidote is understanding that one missed rep doesn't ruin the workout. Progress isn't linear, it's not all or nothing, it's cumulative. Here's what your 100 days actually look like when you strip away all the motivational nonsense. Days 1 to 7, excitement and energy. Days 8 to 21, the novelty wears off. This is where discipline starts. Days 22 to 45, the grind. This is where most people quit. Nothing feels like it's changing. Days 46 to 70, you start noticing small changes. Days 71 to 90, the behavior starts feeling normal. Days 91 to 100, you look back and can't quite believe you've come this far. But here's what happens after day 100 that nobody prepares you for. There's a letdown. Some people hit day 100 and immediately relax, thinking they've won, and within weeks, they're back to their old patterns, because they were focused on the destination instead of understanding that consistency isn't a destination. It's a way of being. The goal was never to be consistent for 100 days. The goal was to become the kind of person who maintains consistency. This is why the real test isn't day 100. It's day 101, when there's no finish line ahead of you, when you have to choose consistency simply because it's who you are now, not because you're chasing a goal. That's when you discover if the transformation was real or if it was just a performance. Let me tell you what's possible when you truly embrace consistency as a lifestyle rather than a challenge. Your capacity expands in ways that seem almost superhuman to the person you used to be. Things that would have taken you weeks get done in days. Your energy levels stabilize at a higher baseline. Your decision-making improves because you're not constantly stressed about all the things you're not doing. Your relationships improve because you're showing up as someone reliable, someone with integrity. But the most profound change is internal. You develop what psychologists call an internal locus of control. This is the belief that you're in charge of your outcomes. Most people have an external locus of control. They believe their outcomes are determined by luck, by circumstance, by other people. And when you believe external factors control your life, you become passive. But when you prove to yourself through consistent action that you can change your outcomes regardless of circumstances, your entire relationship with life shifts. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You just act. This is the real power of 100 days of consistency. It's not about the habit you build or the goal you achieve. It's about the fundamental rewiring of your belief system. You move from, I hope I can, to I know I can, because you have 100 days of evidence proving it. And that evidence-based confidence is unshakable. It's based on hard data from your own life. And once you've seen that transformation happen once, you know it's repeatable. You know that any area of your life you want to change, you have the capacity to change it. So here's what I want you to understand. Those 100 days ahead of you, they're not just a challenge. They're a crucible. They're where the old version of you gets burned away and a new version emerges. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, there will be days you want to quit. But on the other side of those 100 days is a version of you that you probably can't even imagine right now. A version that has capacity, discipline, confidence, and momentum. That version is already inside you. The 100 days just reveal it. They burn away everything that isn't essential until what remains is who you were meant to be all along. That person is free. Free from the tyranny of their impulses. Free from the weight of broken promises. Free to build the life they actually want instead of settling for whatever life happens to them. That's what's waiting. That's why you start, and that's why you don't stop until the 100 days are done and the transformation is complete.